So today I thought I'd give this embroidery kit a try. This is the flowers embroidery from Everyday Crafts that they sent me. I got 2 small kits and this is the first one. This comes with a ring to put it in, and I was a bit skeptical how that would work at first because it's plastic. But there's actually a little rim inside that locks it, so you can get it quite taut. I was pleasantly surprised how well that has held this very fine fabric, this organza. So it has the printed design. Let me just get a piece of paper so you can see that. It has the printed design on the organza piece there. It also comes with 2 needles, a metal frame to go around, and a tassel to hang off it. It comes with all the threads, so there's 5 different threads and they're all numbered across the top there. And it comes with some instructions, and so what I'm going to do is just try and work it out from the instructions. It has a list of the different stitches, so it points to the flower there and it says satin embroidery stitch, and you use 2 strands. And so you come over here, and across here it says long and short needles. Okay, that one is the French knots, French bean embroidery, but I'd say that's French knots. And then we have satin embroidery there. So satin embroidery is what we will be using for the little flowers. I think we're using those for the leaves as well. Yes, we are. And we're using them, what are the stems? I'm trying to see what the stems... long and short, long and short. That's French knot. Okay, so it doesn't actually tell me what the stem is made up of, but over the other side there's another diagram and contour embroidery. The stem on this, oh hello. Well, that one is contour embroidery. The one down the bottom, which looks thicker, down here is actually satin embroidery, which looks more like this one here. So the majority of it is the satin stitch, and then you have some French knots, straight stitch as well for like the little bits, but this one doesn't have that one. So there we go, that's fairly simple. The only thing is it says hemming seam for around the edge, but there's no reference for what a hemming seam is. I'm just thinking maybe you just go around like that. That would be, that's what it looks like. If I bring that up close. So that's the only thing I can't work out, but it looks like you just go around the edge by, where's my, oh here we go here, by placing this on it like that, or perhaps underneath it, and then bringing the thread up and going over, and then up and going over all the way around. I'm thinking that's how that would be done. So I think I'm quite sure that's how it works. Okay, so what will we start with? Perhaps we should start with the stem, which I decided was actually the satin stitch. Let's see, satin embroidery stitch is basically 5 equal parts, and thread the needle through one end, bottom of the cloth, insert the bottom cloth into the center point. it's pretty much just coming up and going down. That's, you know, from, yeah. Yeah. I think there's white on the outside of those flowers, then light pink, then dark pink. So it does leave a little bit of thinking up to you. We'll just see how we go anyway. So we'll start off with the brown for the stalk, and none of them use anything other than 2 strands of thread. So we just stick with the 2 strands of thread. It's a long piece of thread. These threads usually have 6 strands in them, like a normal embroidery thread. So I'm just going to split it. Okay, I have to admit this is not the easiest thread to divide up. Usually threads divide very easily, but this seems to be tangling each time I try and do it. Okay, so I do have 2 threads there, but it's managed to get in quite the state. So let's just see if I can divide these into 2 as well while I'm doing it, so I don't want to have to pick it up and untangle it again somewhere down the track. For the moment. Okay, so we have our 1 strand here. And both needles look to be the same, so I will just take one out. I do have a lovely little needle sharpener here. That was a gift, and I'm just going to pass this needle through just to make sure it's nice and sharp. Okay, we have it threaded. I need to put some clean paper underneath, I think. Okay, we have it threaded, so let's just knot the end of it. And see how we go here. So I'm just going to look at it under the microscope. Yep, that's all it is, just over and over and over and over and over. Okay, let's turn that off. It does tend to flicker if you're not careful. So starting it like there, right down the bottom, and just going over like that. And then coming back right next to it, and then over there, and that is basically all I do on all of those stems, like that. Oh, if you can see that, see, I just go over and over and over on that. Perhaps should have left a tail so I could hide it underneath. That might be a better idea, because I'm thinking if I have that little knot there, let's just cut that off. If I have that little knot there, it's going to stay there, but if I make the tail a little bit longer, I can actually hide it under the stitch. So let's see if we can just pull that out. I'll still put a knot in, but I'll leave a tail on the end of it so it can be hidden, I think, a bit better than that. Like that. So I'll leave a little tail and then trim it down as I go along. Now I'm thinking I will put the needle in on the outer side of the printing. That way I won't see the printing. Like that. Now I'll grab that tail and just hold it up like that so that I can catch it as I bring the threads over. Like that. See how I'm doing that? I'm holding that thread up so that I can go over like that and trap it in there like that. Okay, well, you don't need to watch me do all these little stitches. I will do all the stalks in the brown in this stitch, and I will also do all the leaves because that's exactly the same thing, but that's in the green thread. It's also using 2 strands of embroidery thread, so it's exactly the same. I'll come back when I do the flowers. I've got that far. As you can see, that's the right side. And I just want to show you how I finish that off, because the next part is right up there and you wouldn't want to be dragging your thread all the way up there. So all I do to finish that off, that's my thread. This is the back of my work, which will end up probably just the same as the front of the work anyway. And I just get my needle and I sort of thread it back down, picking up a few threads here and there like that. And I could take, if I missed a stitch, I could fix it on my way down as well. And I can take that a little bit further down if I want to there. And, oops, sorry. And then all I'll do is carefully just snip that off. And so that's the back, and it's quite tidy, and that's the front, and it's quite tidy. I just wanted to show you that before I continued on. Okay, I'll keep going. Okay, I am back, and I have done the, trying to see if you can see, I have done the little brown stalks and the green leaves on the little image so far. And now I'm starting on the flowers, and what I've decided, because there's no specific instructions on how to do this, I'm going to start with the darker pink. Like, there's instructions, but you've got to kind of work it out a little bit yourself. So what I'm going to do is start with the little darker pink on the inside, and I'll do all the little dark pink parts. And then there's a mid-pink colour, and then white that goes right at the very edge. And they're all just little satin stitch, which is just a stitch and different lengths. I'll just bring that up a bit close so you can see how that's got to work there. And then a French knot in the centre with the brown thread. Now, with the brown thread, it tangled up a lot when I was separating it, but I found when I was using it, never tangled at all, which was a lovely surprise. I thought I was going to have quite a lot of trouble with it, but I never had any trouble with the green either, so they were not tangling while I was stitching. It was just getting the threads out at the beginning. And I've I've been doing it with no knots, and that's worked out really, really well. So all I do is, let's just do a little bit here. I'm going to come in like that, and I hope you can see my thread at the back. I'm not sure if I showed you this the other day, that's all. I'm going to maneuver that where I'm going to stitch so I can trap the thread inside the stitches I'm going to be doing. So I've got to, hang on, I need to, they don't have to go all the way up, that's right. So we're going to go small stitches first. Now use your finger to hold the thread at the back there. Come back down here. And then I'm going over that thread at the back just so I can trap it in there. And the longer you leave the thread at the back, the more you will be able to trap it. Also, when you bring your needle up like that, if you can hold it with your finger while you bring your hand around, it stops it falling back through, because it does do that if you don't hold it. And the organza is very easy to stitch with. I do have to say though, you have to be careful not to pull your stitches too tight, because you don't want to be ripping the actual organza, because after you've put a couple of stitches in it, it can rip. Now I'll show you what I've done there. I've taken like 3 or 4 stitches. The first one was only little, and then I've kind of got them a bit bigger as I go along. And then now that I'm in the center of that petal, I'll bring them down low again to match that side. Then I'll do the exact same thing on all the other petals, and then I'll move on to the next flower. So I'll go ahead and I'll do all the dark pink, and then I'll be back. Okay, I've done the dark pink insides of the flowers, so now I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I think I will start about here and just do the next layer, making sure I leave a little tail behind to tuck it in. And as long as you can see the outline, that's why it's a good idea to keep your photo close by so you can refer to this if you can't see your outline very well. And then I've done the dark one, so I'm just going to do a stitch on the outside, leaving a little border right around the edge where it will be white. And it's pretty much just that all the way around. Now I do this in this mid-color pink, and then I will come back and do it in white, and then I'll finish it off with some French knots. So I'll come back when it's time to do the French knots. So that's fairly simple, just making sure I keep that little tail under my stitches so that it will catch it and hold it in place like that. And the back isn't looking too messy at all, because I'm tucking all those ends in, although some of the shorter ones get a little bit lumpy. So you can definitely tell the back from the front, but it's not, you know, it's not too messy on the outside. Alright, so I've done all the flowers and I'm on to doing the French knots. Because of the flowers, and I don't know whether it will pick it up or not. No, it won't pick it up. In the center, because of all the stitching around the edge of the flower there, there's not a lot of fabric to be working with. You might only have like 6 little threads in the center of the flower. So what I'm doing is I'm bringing my yarn up right at the edge of the flower like that and catching one of the outside flower threads. And it doesn't say how many times to twist your flower, but I'm making them quite large so they don't fall through. So I'm doing about 5. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm trying to catch another knot further around, another little thread on the edge of the flower further around, just so it doesn't pull straight through because the fabric is so delicate. So I've just got it, caught there. And it doesn't say how many to do. So like I did 2 on this one. I may do 2 or 3 on this one here now. So I'll just do that again. Coming up, catching one of the pink threads on the side there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then just going back through. Yeah, so this one will definitely need 3 knots. See how there's that gap in the middle there? So let's see how we go. I'll go like that, and I might do like 6 or 7 twists with this one. It doesn't say how many to do. So that's 6 in that one. And I'm trying not to pull them too tight as well, but you don't want them getting too loopy. So that's 3 in there. They're in a bit of a line. Let's see if I can... Okay, there we go. So that's how that one is going to go like that. You just have to kind of work with it. Now, this thread does not tangle. And when you finish it off at the back, I haven't finished. This is the first time I'm finishing it off. Back is not quite as neat as what it was before. You have to work with the threads of the flower to be able to knot it off. Whoops, we don't want it getting tangled there at all. That would not be good. Don't do that. What was I saying? Like the thread, it doesn't normally tangle. I said that as it tangled, didn't I? There we go. Okay, we got that. I didn't ruin it. Okay. It doesn't tangle when you're stitching with it generally, but threading it is terrible. There's something about the thread. It just is not easy to thread, and I don't know why. The yarns come apart very easily. See, there's 2 pieces in that. And see the bottom, how it spreads apart? It basically doesn't matter what you do to it. You can wet it, you can wax it or whatever, and it just keeps coming apart. It won't stick together. So threading it wasn't easy, but sewing with it, it doesn't tend to get tangled. I don't like how that's in a... That's better. Okay. All right. So I just have to do some French knots in this one here, and then just a little stitch there, and then I'll do the outside. So I'll be back when I'm ready to go on to that. All right, so I've done that. So now the last part we have to do is put our little frame on. There really aren't any instructions on here for doing that. It says to use a hemming stitch, but it does not give an example of the hemming stitch. So I'm just looking at the way it's done, and it just simply looks like it's stitched over and over and over against around the metal. So this is our little metal piece. There's a little join down the bottom, so I'm presuming that's probably where you start and stop. On the picture it has the tassel being at the bottom, but I would tend to put mine up the top like a bookmark. So that's how I'm going to do mine. Now, the diagram was exactly the same size before I stitched the embroidery work, but as you can see, oh, I don't know if you can see. Now, see the line? It is actually smaller than the frame because, of course, when you stitch, it shrinks the fabric in. So I'm just going to have to do it as best I can, I guess. I might need to just anchor it in 4 corners before I start, I'm thinking. So this time I will put a knot in the bottom of my thread. And it's very tempting to want to use like 4 strands of yarn for this, but I don't think that's a good idea simply because of the organza. The fabric is too fine to have too many threads going through. So I think what I will do is just actually, I'm not going to knot that. I'm just going to put some temporary stitches in the corner, something perhaps that I can pull out as I go along. Actually, I'll take it down through the top like that and then back up like that. I don't know if this is going to work or not. I just can't think of any other way to get this to stay put while I stitch it, that's all. Apart from a bit of glue. But I don't want to stain the fabric either. So I've put a loose little knot there. This is just going to be a little bit fiddly, I think. Like that, I think. Like, okay, there. And there. That. It's like that. I'm not sure how else I would do this, to be honest. Whether the ink will, so, you know, go away over time either. Someone's probably out there laughing at me because they know a better way. If it's you, please put a comment what would be a better way to kind of get this in its spot to keep it there. Okay, and I will remove those, like I said, once I start stitching around. I mean, I'm not sure whether I should have stitched this on first, perhaps. I thought it would get in the way, though. I actually did think if I put it on before stitching, it might get in the way. Okay, let's see how straight that is. It's not perfect, but I can kind of move it, I guess, a little bit as I'm stitching. I don't know how I'm going to hide all those blue marks though, because can you see? It's looking for something lighter so you can have a look. Hang on. Okay, that might help. Lighter colour. Can you see the difference where the blue line is? You know, there's like almost a quarter of an inch difference, so we'll see how we go. So I guess I'm just going to start at the top here and kind of hold that as I go. See, if I push it down too far, I'm going to have a great big gap at the bottom, so I'm going to have to keep it like that. So I'm thinking it is just like an overcast. I don't know if that's what you call it. And I'll try and, if I stitch on the line, that might be the best thing, and it might pull it in towards it. And then just see how we go. Like that. I can always go over it a second time, I guess. I need to have it right under me to do this, I think, so it's a bit hard. Doing it from a distance. I'll just have to go and then maybe have to do it a second time. What I did want to mention as well, as I was doing the flowers, I did the dark pink and then the light pink, and they looked really awful. But it wasn't until I got the lighter one put right around the edge that I thought, oh, they don't look too bad. So never judge it until you've actually, you know, got toward a completed state. Like that looks awful, what I've done there. But I'm sure if I go around a second time and fill in those little gaps, it will be fine. So I will go ahead and do that as best I can and let you know how I go, and then I'll come back. All right, I've done all the way around like that, and it has taken some time as well. And I'm just coming up to the last corner, and that is the little thread that I put on there to hold it in place. So I'm just going to cut that off and get rid of that. I haven't been able to stick to the lines completely, but I don't think that's going to matter too much, because what I did find out is that the marks are water soluble, which is wonderful. So I can get a wet paintbrush and just go along it, and the blue mark comes off, and I didn't know that before, so that's wonderful. So it doesn't really matter if you don't stick to the blue mark exactly. The only thing is the image looks a little bit off, but I don't think that's a very big issue at all. So I've almost finished. This is, I wouldn't say this is a quick craft. This is something if you want to listen to shows or podcasts or, you know, an online book or something, it would be ideal. It is a little bit time consuming considering it's only a small project. Although I don't do this sort of thing very often. I guess if you did do this sort of thing quite often, you would become quicker at it. I don't know. It doesn't really give instructions how to get it off here. I'm thinking I just cut it very close to the edge without cutting the stitches. There's no real instructions on how to do that part, but You know, it's all trial and error for me at the moment. So, and I'll show you I've had to change the threads up a couple of times because I ran out of the thread. You know, I've had to join, well, that one went through to about there. There's a slight bulge in the thread where it ends, and then this one came around to here, and now this thread is coming across to the top there. So there's plenty of thread for the project. They give you plenty of thread, more than what you need. Yeah, so I'll be happy to finish this. Then I have the other one, and the other one, from what I can gather, is very similar. Well, it's not the same as this, but the stitch work is very similar, so I won't do a tutorial on the other one because it's just the same sort of stitching. I will show you it before I start so you can see what I mean, and then I'll show you it when it's complete. This part here is what I'm concerned with. How am I going to finish this off? Because when I changed threads before, I tucked it into the next piece, but this one won't have a next piece, but it will be having the tassel attached, which may be a wonderful way to finish it because I might be able to knot it onto the tassel that way. So I'll just go and finish this last bit of stitching, and then I'll be back when I finish it off. Alright, so I've gone all the way around that, and I was able to tighten up the first bit I did by wrapping the last bit over the top and pulling it quite taut. Now I'm just going to show you getting rid of some of this blue. I've got a little bit of water, and you don't need it too wet at all. And all I was doing was wetting it on this side like that. Like that, and then turning it over and wetting it on the opposite side, kind of getting it quite wet, but not saturated wet. And just keep doing that, and it disappears. See? It just disappears, the blue, which is really good. So I will do that, and then I've got to cut it out, and I'm a bit wary of that. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'll have to I've left the thread on the end so that I can attach it better to the little tassel that I'm putting at the top of mine rather than the base, how they have it in the diagram. Because I'm used to having things like bookmarks with the tassel on the top. I guess that's just a personal preference, how you want to do that. It's nice to know this blue comes off though. And you could go over the overstitch another time if you found it was a little bit patchy, but honestly I don't think I would want to re-stitch into the same holes with the organza, it's quite delicate, and I think it would end up getting holes in it if you're not careful. So I think going over it the one time is probably sufficient. Okay, I think that's about right. Yeah. Okay. And if you didn't want to use this like a bookmark, you could cut it out and attach it into a journal or something like that, and have perhaps a nice piece. What have we got here to give you an idea of what I mean? Like you could have put a nice piece of lace behind it on a page if you wanted to jazz it up and glue it down or stitch it down or something like that. You know, I'm sure there's other ways you could use this piece rather than as a bookmark, because it is quite a delicate piece, but still quite pretty. Okay, so we've got rid of our blue marks. Now I have to cut it out. Oh, not quite sure how I'm going to go about doing that. Let me give it a think. Alright, so I did have a little look on YouTube to see how people cut appliques out of organza. Most of them are using like a soldering iron tool, or you could even use, you know, those little ones the ladies' school got with their pocket letters to seal the plastic off and things like that. You could use those. I don't have either of those, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it close but not too close, and I'm thinking I might be able to just slightly melt the edge very, very carefully, but I don't know. I just don't know. So let's take it out of the frame to start with. And the frame worked very well. I'll show you. See how it's got like, there we go, we got that out. Oops, hang on. It's hollow inside of one side, and then on this side it has those little ridges, and so that's what holds it into place. So once you tighten it, it can't slip around once you've tightened that. And considering that was such a fine fabric, it held very well. Okay, so here is my bookmark. I want to get quite close, but I do, oh gosh, that's so, maybe I'll just leave a little bit until I know exactly how I'm going to do it. I might need to use my magnifying glass on this one, see how I go, just so I don't get too close. Okay, that's really close, but I'm not cutting the thread. I know you can't see. Oh, let me have a look. Let's see if I can get... No, it's too dark for you to see. Just a moment. Try and bring that up. Can you see how close I'm cutting there? Really, really close, but not cutting the actual stitch. And I think that will be all right. I may have to just carefully run a flame. I'll have to get a lighter from somewhere. I don't have a lighter. Just to finish them off. And I know that's a method used by a lot of people, so for other things, for laces, to stop them fraying and things like that. And actually somebody mentioned it, I think it was Zephy mentioned it on one of my recent videos on a comment about burning the edges of something carefully to stop any fraying. So I'll just cut it for now and then see if I can get a lighter. Oh, that's a scary thing. I'm not used to. I'll have to practice, I think, on one of these scraps. Now, I don't want to be cutting my thread off there, so I'm just holding my thread out of the way. Okay, but this will give you a general idea. Whoops. I can see a little bit of blue from the image through the stitching while I'm doing this too, because it's under the microscope. This light is so handy. I can't have it on all the time because the light in it actually hurts my eyes after a while, but it is amazing, you know, for doing close-up work. I don't know if you can see that, but it helps me. And then there's this super sonic little bit here as well. So, and then you can just use it as a light as well, which is very helpful, but I can't have it on too much. Okay, so I've cut that out, and now I need to, oh gosh, I don't have a lighter. I'm going to have to wait till I can do that, but I do need to attach the tassel to the top as well, which is probably best to do at the very end because I don't want to burn it. I don't. My husband will have one, so I'll be able to use his. So I'll put that away and then I'll be back, and I will definitely practice on this. I think, how will I practice? I guess I will draw a little picture perhaps. Okay, we've got a bit of pink here. So maybe I'll just draw it like a line right close to the edge and see how I go. See that? Oh, you might not be able to see it. See that? Like that. And see how I go melting it before doing it on that. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I've had a little practice. I've sort of gone next to my little candle here. I didn't need a lighter. I've got a candle. Whoops. I just need to not touch the edge of the candle, I think. That's got rough edge on it. It's my melting wax candle. So here goes. We will just have a little, like, it's quite close. So I'm just going to see how close I need to get that. Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And just perhaps just do a little bit at a time. Okay, can you see how close that little bit there got? I can just feel it, so I know it's melted. I can feel how it's melted. So, as long as I don't put this part over it, I think it should be quite alright. Just to, it's mainly the heat. You don't want the flame on it. You want the heat on it. Okay, so basically that's what I'm going to do all the way up, and then I'll be back. Okay, so that's done. There's a couple of little spots. I probably could have got a bit closer, but I got a little bit wary of that, so I did not. I see a couple of little spots too where I can still see a little bit of blue right around the edge there. So, okay, so now I think I will just finish it off. So I've got my lovely little tassel. They look beautiful when they're brand new like that, don't they? Look at that. Lovely. So pretty. Quite a large tassel as well. There's no hole, and I don't want to make a hole for that, to be honest. So I think it's a matter of perhaps that should have been put on before before I stitched it. I really don't know, because that's supposed to go like that, isn't it? Okay. Like that through the thing, but that, ooh, see, there's no instructions for that part. So if you want this on, which is actually quite heavy, you will have to stitch it on, I'm thinking, or put it on beforehand. So let's just see how we can stitch it on. Perhaps that's why they put it down the bottom, because it was a heavy, because it's quite heavy, isn't it? Alright, I've got that there now. I'm trying to think what's the best. I'm not quite sure how to put that on, I guess. Unless I just thread it through and loop it over, because it's no longer, I think it may have had to have been attached before the metal frame went on. Well, there you go. I never really thought about that, did I? Because once you put a hole in this organza, it will start ripping. So you don't want to be doing that. Maybe we can just sew it on. See how we go. Like that. Yeah, that's fairly strong. I don't want to put too many stitches in it though, because it will start to split the organza after a while. Okay, that's how we're doing it, and then I'm just going to finish it off at the back here. Put a little knot in there. Maybe another one as well, just for good measure. Okay. Oh, don't tangle. Do not tangle. Oh no. Ah, goodness. I did mention this wasn't great thread, but I didn't have any issues with it tangling while I was stitching with it at all. There. Okay, that's done. That's not going anywhere. I'll just run the needle under there and take it out, I think. No, doesn't want me to, does it? Look at that. Tangled all of this. There, okay, done. Carefully cut it off and we're finished. There we go. That is, I'll put it on the lighter background so you can see that. Just move that candle out the way now. That is the bookmark from Everyday Crafts, and that is the way it's supposed to look, and I'd say it does look like that. I think the instructions could have been a bit better. I mean, like now I've done it once, I know what to do, but you know, I might only do this once, so I think I will have to keep just going around here to get the little bits of blue off, because I can see those, and they will come off quite easily with a bit of water. But there you go, it is very pretty. It was something I hadn't sort of done before, so that was enjoyable as well. So now I am going to be getting on with the next project, and this is the last project from Everyday Crafts, and this is another embroidery work. This is this one here, and I'm hoping the image fits in this hoop, because I've only got the one hoop, but it doesn't. I may have one of my own, or I'm just going to have to move it around, which I don't particularly like doing that sort of thing. But I may have to do that, just do part of it, finish that, and then move down and do the other part of it as well. So that is the next one, and like I said, that's just using, what does it say here? French knots, satin stitch, leaf stitch, which looks very similar to satin stitch. Kind of shows you what order to do it in as well. Like you start with your greenery, then you do your flowers, and then you do your glass vase. So it gives the image that, you know, the glass is on the outside of it. Thought there was another image. And then on this side, okay, so this is leaf stitch. Then you've got satin stitch, back stitch, daisy stitch. So it does show you, it gives you all the instructions. Long and short stitch, outline stitch, French knots, and a straight line stitch. it has some tips. So it tells you before you start to, you know, read through the instructions and things like that. And they're using 3 strands on this one, whereas the little bookmark was 2 strands, using 3 strands. And then you have your key for all your threads down the bottom. So these instructions seem quite all right. Okay, it even tells you that the ink they use is water soluble. I don't think it said that on the other one at all, see, so you don't wet it during your work, but once you've finished it can be soaked in water without the need for removing from the plastic frame. Okay. Alright, well that one seems fairly good with its instructions. It is quite a larger piece, so that's going to take me a little while, so I'm not going to be doing that on camera like I did with the other. If I do come across anything though, I will certainly turn the camera on and explain it. So, okay, thank you, and I'll see you when I finish this one. And there we go, I have just done my final stitches in this embroidery, and it took a while. It took me a while to do this embroidery. I did enjoy doing it. I was able to listen to some videos and you know, books and things, so it's a nice relaxing thing to do, and that's what it looks like. I did have to move the hoop around a couple of times, as you can see the part of it, the shadow of it there, but it worked very well. The instructions were quite easy to follow. It has in red, like, see, you get a little dotted line pointing to something, and it says number 11, which is the number of the thread. Number 11 is there, and then it says satin stitch 2 strands, so you use 2 strands of the embroidery thread, so you divide it and you find 2 strands of that, and it says satin stitch, so you turn it over and you look, and there's satin stitch there, so it shows you how to do the stitches. If you have any trouble, you know, figuring out how to do the stitch, there's always YouTube to look up how to do a satin stitch, for example. They have some tips here, which tells you to read through your instructions before you start. They're telling you that each thread consists of 6 strands, and you take that amount of strands out. The figures show how to match colours, and it also tells you, because it's printed, it tells you here that it is done in water-soluble ink, and you're to soak it in water afterwards, and it tells you the instructions for that. That's just a key on the colours you get. The only part I got a little bit confused at was the last part, which I did the silver. It's got 14 and 15 outline stitch, 2 strands, 3 strands. And that was basically using, where is it? Oh, okay, I've only got a little bit of this one left. Using the grey and the silver stitches, but it didn't really go into detail about that. So what I did was I did a row of the outline stitch in the grey, and then I went around it with a row of the silver stitch, because it, you know, that's all I could think of that it was, and it seems to look quite nice, as you can see. I know you can see a bit of the ink, but like I said, it's water soluble. But if you can see, I've done the grey on the inside and then the silver on the outside there. So I have to go and soak this, and I don't know what it's going to look like after I soak it. So I'll soak it in cool water, and it's going to have to air dry, and I don't know how long that's going to take. So once all that's done, I will come back and show you the finished results. Alright, so I've rinsed the embroidery. I put it in a container with cool water in it. I submerged it. I, just gently moved it around a little bit, and then I saw the water turning slightly blue. So I took the embroidery out, I emptied the water, put some more in, did the same thing, and I did it about 3 times, just swishing it, and it seems like it's all come out quite nicely. I then rolled the embroidery in a towel and stood on it and got as much moisture out of it as I possibly could, and I have it hanging, and I'm going to hang it until it's just barely damp, and then I'm going to pin it out on a board to stretch it out while it continues to dry, just so I don't have to iron it and perhaps crush the embroidery work on it. So I will put a snippet at the end of this video showing you what that actually looks like once it's complete. But what I'd like to share with you now, for those of you who might have seen my unboxing video from Everyday Crafts, I was originally sent a package from Everyday Crafts and it didn't arrive. And so they sent me another package, which you saw in the unboxing video. And I did say in that video that if by some chance the first box arrives, I will do it as a giveaway, as long as that would be all right with Everyday Crafts. And they said that is fine. And guess what? It arrived. So I have a little giveaway. And it is the 4 products that, of course, I have been making using the Everyday Crafts products. And the first one is the diamond painting crossbody purse. You may recall, I'll put a link in the description box below so you can have a look at the completed project. It was a very nice project to do, very easy, and it didn't take long at all. Lovely introduction to diamond painting, and all the bits that you need are inside of the purse. So that is one project. The other project is, we'll show you the diamond painting projects, is a bookmark, and this is a Parisian theme. Once again, very pretty and a very easy project. Lovely way to introduce yourself to diamond painting. It was a lot more pleasurable than I expected it to be, so maybe it will be for you as well. Also a very, very good idea for little gift ideas, especially for crafty friends, or for Christmas time. Just pop them in a little package for someone you might think might like some craft ideas. So very affordable. So there's those 2 diamond painting projects, and then there is the embroidered bookmark, which is this one here, this pink one. I hope that's not too glary. It's just that it's a dark sort of day. There we go. This one here, that is the first embroidery project. So you will get that, and all the bits are inside of this little parcel there. There is also an embroidery hoop that you use for this project, and also for the lovely little flower embroidery, which is the blooming flowers embroidery that I have just completed. So you get those 4 projects, and all you have to do is leave me a lovely comment in the description box below, and I will wait 1 week from when this video goes live, and I will draw a winner from the comments. I will use the random picker. I find that's the easiest and probably the most honest way to pick a winner, and just 1 comment each, and you will get these 4 lovely projects to do courtesy of Everyday Crafts. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing me create these projects. It was very enjoyable. I really enjoyed the diamond painting. The embroidery was lovely. This one was a nice, the little bookmark was, you know, well, didn't take too long, but I must admit, this one took a while, but it was nice because I got to listen to some, you know, online books or podcasts, or, you know, you can just listen to videos while you're doing it. So that was rather nice too. If you've got the time for something like that, it just involved a lot more sewing than I actually expected it, but very, you know, easy to follow instructions on it. So there you go. I will put a snip at the end of this video, like I said, showing you the completed embroidery that I did, and I will use that in a project somewhere in the future, probably on a journal or something like that. I'd hate to do all that work and then not use it, so definitely will be using that, maybe in a floral journal or something. So take care, everybody. Bye. And thank you, Everyday Crafts, for sending me these products. Bye.